Good morning everyone. Today I am doing part 6 of the city building series. In this video I moved away from the main avenue and I went back to the old, smaller street where I built my first two buildings. For this build I'm gonna be building like a residential building that's a little older and a little like less modern than the other builds I've done throughout the series. So I primarily use sandstone and glass in this build and I make like only 4 floors I think. So it's not a huge build, it's relatively small and it has a few balconies, that's it. So right now I'm currently building the garage of the building, because a lot of residential buildings they have like garages to park the cars of the residents. And since there's no other parking in the city or anywhere else, I decided to make it a small, private garage. And I feel like the garage took up a pretty big portion of the build considering how small this tower is. So that's probably why a lot of the or that's probably a big cause of why there's so few floors. Also, you guys might have noticed in the background that there's like a kind of a sunken down thing, and there's also like a road with other smaller roads leading down towards the sunken down thing. And I basically made like a sunken highway in the background. I also extended the train line so that it goes parallel with the sunken highway. And both the train line and the sunken highway they lead towards an airport that I built. And I have to like show that off in another video, maybe a YouTube short or something. I'll decide when I get to it. But yeah, off camera, I'm doing like some other projects that would either take too long to record or I think would be too boring to watch. So yeah, I have embarked on a few other projects off camera. So while I was building the first balcony of this building, I realized that when I because the building is like 2 blocks away from the sidewalk and I put the lampposts on the sidewalk, right? And the balcony I want to keep it 2 blocks wide so that there's some area to walk around with considering I'm gonna put a fence on it. So and when I made it 2 blocks wide it covered the lampposts and the lampposts are powered by a daylight sensor which turns on every time it's night, right? And apparently I didn't know this before, but when you put a block, or I did know this before, but I realized that because I was building a balcony over the lampposts, the lamppost would permanently stay on. And I had this problem in a few other builds before, like the second build I did with the blue glass windows and the black triangle roof, the one that's also on the street. It also has like lamps that are powered by daylight sensors, right? And because the daylight sensors aren't on top of the roof, they're like inside of it, they don't sense that there's a sun, so they're always permanently on. So I decided to, go back in and remove the redstone lamps and just add in glowstone so that, you don't see the daylight sensors because I thought that the daylight sensors looked too odd in the roof. It just seemed, sticking out and an eyesore basically. So I was actually really undecided as to how I would make this build. I was originally going for a complete sandstone, but then when I started building it, I realized it looked odd and dingy. I wanted it to look old, but I didn't want the building to look dingy, and that became an issue, especially with like the theme I was going with. I couldn't find any blocks that kind of suited the look I wanted to go for. I thought about using just regular bricks or stone bricks, but then I felt like that would look too modernish, even for what I'm going with. Thinking back to it, maybe I should have used bricks, but it's what's done has been done, and there's nothing I can do to fix it other than completely changing the building. But I'm too lazy to do that, so I'm not gonna do it. But other than that, I tried, experimenting with different blocks and seeing how it would turn out. And eventually I settled on making the structure, the main frame with sandstone and having the trims as cobblestone. And in the end, I think it turned out pretty good. I also add a few other things off camera, Fortunately though, I take a screenshot of it, of the end results so that you guys can see. But apart from that, I did a lot of tweaks and changes throughout this video. So here I was planning to cap off the building and make this the roof, right? But then when I compare it to the other building, the first build that I ever did on the series that's next to this building, I realized that the building that I'm building in this video, it looks too stocky and too short compared to how wide it was, right? So I do this off camera, but I add another level to it, and I have a screenshot that I'm gonna put in at the end of the video. I think I've mentioned this before in previous videos, but I'm not that good at planning out things, especially when it comes to building stuff in Minecraft. And I've noticed that when I was building other projects off camera too, like when I was doing the highway and the train tracks, you know that road that you saw before, the bridge that had roads connecting to it, I realized that intersected with the pillars of the bridge that is built parallel or next to the highway. And I had to destroy pillars and adjust and tweak everything to make the road fit and everything flow nicely. And the same thing's happening with this build. I feel like this build has the most tweaks that I've ever done, but I had to do tweaks to other buildings as well. Like that first, the tallest building that I built right now, I had to do some tweaks to that. Like I had to remove a pillar and I had to do some other stuff to make it look better. And sometimes, that's the joy of building stuff. But usually it's quite an inconvenience to try to have to go back in and change it, especially when I have to remove a section of it. I can't just add it on. I have to remove a section and then I have to add something on, and it's very time consuming and irritating. So usually, if I make a mistake in my builds, I usually just roll with it, or I make very small adjustments to make it look a little better. I usually don't go full scale changes. So here I'm going in and I'm adding sandstone pillars to the sides of the building so that it doesn't look too monotonous and there's some sort of, you know, real design to the building, and especially to the sides. I feel like the sides aren't really that important, especially considering that when I add in more buildings, you're not really gonna see the sides. It's mostly just the front. And, for this build, I think the front turned out okay, especially after I add that um, extra floor off camera. Right now I'm going back in and I'm replacing the gaps, or not replacing the gaps, but filling in the gaps with the glass. So here I go back in and I add sandstone pillars to the back of the building and I fill in the gaps with glass, just like I did with the sides. Um, but I think I put in more effort in the back than I did in the sides. And the reason being is that because the back, for my builds that I do in this series, they're more exposed than the sides. And I guess that makes sense because buildings are more closer together on the sides and therefore you can't see the sides. On the other hand, I don't usually put buildings back to back, at least not as so far, you know what I mean? So the back is more exposed and therefore the back has to look good. Because while I'm flying around my city admiring my work, I'm gonna see the back sides of my buildings. And I need them to be good to be satisfied with myself. And I feel like that's another thing I try to shoot for when I'm building stuff is to be personally satisfied with them. And I feel like that's something for everything that you do in life, not just, Minecraft builds. You should be satisfied with I can't speak English today, but you should be satisfied with what you've done or what you've accomplished. And really, that's a big factor in being happy in life. Where did this conversation go to? I started talking about Minecraft builds, and then I just moved on to philosophical things. Regardless, going back to the build, um, I'm not as satisfied as with this build as I was with, previous builds that I've done in the past. And that's primarily because I didn't really think that the sandstone would look, this bad. I thought, the sandstone would look better, more modern. I was hoping that they would, come out with I really wanted Mojang to come out with like a sandstone brick. I feel like that would look really nice. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, subscribe and like this video to support the channel.